Welcome to the I Am Power Hour, where personal growth meets empowerment.
I'm Terry, and we're here to inspire, challenge, and help you transform your mindset.
And I'm Stacie. Together, we're diving into topics that fuel your passion. And today, we're talking about mindfulness and the power of now, plus everything in between.
So grab your coffee, your journal, or even just yourself, and let's ignite the power in you. Welcome back to the I Am Power Hour, and I'm here with my beautiful co-host, Stacie Staten, and we're going to catch up a little bit about what we talked about last show with resilience and also what took place this week. What's happening this week? Did you learn anything new or have anything exciting happen or something that maybe had to stop you in your tracks? So, Stacie, how was your week?
It was really, really good. Most of it. There were some days where I was kind of more on the downside of the week. I think the closer, I kind of get to Friday, I'm kind of just like, oh, why aren't we at Friday yet? But it did seem, I have one more week in my current position, and then I start my new role. And I think that's kind of weighing on me a little bit because it's a new role. It's something I really haven't 100% done. I've done aspects of it, but not all of it, and it's kind of getting me a little anxious. So I'm looking forward to getting kind of over that and getting into that. But also, I found that coincided, and maybe it's just the mom and me with my daughter. She actually started um, learning how to be a server at her work. And that was a really big thing that she was really worried about. And one of the things that, which is really kind of weird, that kept coming up during the week for myself, I actually gave to her. And I think a lot of people know the saying of, if you think you can, or if you think you can't, you're right, right? By Henry Ford, correct?
Yeah, yes, absolutely. You're right either way. If you think you can, you can. And if you think you can't, well, you're right about that too. And, that kind of talks about, I'm wearing one of my favorite shirts today, winning at life.
I like
Sometimes
it.
I have to put this on just to kind of give me a little upbeat to get ready to go. But, the fact that you're going through some transition periods of taking on the new job, the fact that your daughter is going through a little bit of a transition of, growing in her industry and the things that she's doing. And that kind of begs to kind of remember what we talked about in the last show about resilience and being able to set those positive goals and those intentions, being willing to move forward. And it sounds like both of you are living that even this week.
Yeah, definitely trying to live that and encourage her to, move forward and know she can take it on and do the things that she needs to do in order to become a server. And at the same time, tell myself those things as well. And knowing that, you know, if I tell her that, I got to be able to accept it myself. So there's been a lot of days I've been in the mirror going, "Buck up, Stacie, you got this." So
That's right.
it's
And
it's been
it's
pretty
a
funny. I think
practice.
I've scared a few people in the stalls, but it's okay.
But it takes practice, but that willingness to, what do we say? LNT, learn new things. That's how we grow, that's how we learn, that's how we expand. And that's what's happening with you. You manifested this. We had that conversation in the last show, and how the steps you went through to be able to manifest the things that you wanted, and you got intentional about it. And that's what resilient people do. Now that the door is opening and you're about to walk through it, there's a lot of maybe some fear or some anxiety, as you mentioned, is going on with you, and even seeing your daughter go through virtually the same thing. at the same time, you've got the tools of how to be more resilient and do those things. And so I am so grateful to hear this great news. And again, you're going to have to step out of your comfort zone a little bit, but if you think you can, you can. And if you think you can't, well, you're right on both accounts, but I know you and I know can and will begin to happen for you and of course with your daughter as well. So that is absolutely fantastic that these things are kind of coinciding even with the shows and the things we're talking about now.
Yeah, it's amazing how that's happening. And it always kind of astounds me how, every day, how many thoughts we think about, how many, pop in there. I could be thinking of one certain subject and then all of a sudden, whoa, this pops into my head and pops into my head and I'm still focused, trying to focus on one thing. And it's just how quickly they come. And I've noticed, I've really been paying attention this week about how many good thoughts, how many bad thoughts, how many fearful thoughts, how many, not fearful thoughts have flashed through my mind just from not only, things happening in my life, but things I'm hearing on the news and, talking to my parents and just listening to friends. It's just amazing how many different types of thoughts come through your brain every day. If you're not careful and don't pay attention, man, they'll get you.
They will. They
They
surely
do.
will. And that's really, good information because that's what we're going to talk about today is mindfulness and the power of now. And, mindfulness, you can break that down and say, do I have a mind full? And many of us do. We have a full mind. There's all these thoughts that are going on in our mind and in our head, and are we aware of that to be mindful of those thoughts? We have basically between 12 and 60,000 thoughts a day. And most of
That's,
those thoughts may be, as you described, maybe some fear-based or worrisome kinds of thoughts, or, maybe they're repetitive or negative. And there's so many of us too that try to multitask. Are you a multitasker, Stacie?
I am a multitasker, even though they say there is no such thing, but I do truly believe that I like to think that I am one.
Well, multitasking is something that many of us attempt to do or think we can do, or maybe some of us say, nah, I just can't. But the truth of the matter is, you can only think one thought at a time. And so, oftentimes, too, and even you mentioned about the news and things like that, and what's going on out there in the outside world. And many of us find ourselves maybe comparing or critiquing or criticizing ourselves or others. And with that, we compare ourselves to others, or maybe we criticize others or critique others for what they do or what they believe or how they're acting. And a lot of times that leads to deflection and anger and even more divisiveness. So I think this show today, talking about mindfulness and the power of now, maybe some of the anxiety or the fear-based thoughts that you've caught yourself doing, and I know that you're practicing this on a regular basis and seeing the change and the growth. But I think this is something that a lot of us can really take into consideration and examine for ourselves, because if we're trying to multitask or if we've got all these worrisome, negative, fear-based thoughts running through our mind, are we aware? Are we mindful of them? As you mentioned too, you even said, I took a stop and I tried to recognize those and just kind of slow down. So we're going to talk about that today and the power of now. And that begs the question of what I asked at the end of the show last time. And I'm going to ask it this time again. What is it you can control?
I joked about that last week and said the TV definitely I can control, or at least the TV channel changer I can control. I can't control what's on there, but I can definitely control what's in there. But when we come back, we're going to dive into that topic a little bit more. See you in a few. Welcome back to the I Am Power Hour. I'm Stacie and I am here with Terry. And just before we went to the break, a big question came up about what can you control? And in today's episode, we are talking about mindfulness and the power of now. So not only is it important, okay, so what can you control, right, over in this hand, but what is mindfulness and why does it matter? Can
And
you
how can we
elaborate a little
begin to
bit?
merge that together?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. How do you bring the two together? Because they do kind of seem so far apart, but I think in reality, they're probably closer than we think.
I think you are absolutely right on track. And so we're going to finally answer that question. What is it you can control? You know, I do a lot of trainings and I ask this question quite often. And I get answers such as myself or my attitude or, the TV. These are the questions, these are some of the answers that I get. And actually, you're right on all fronts, but I like to break it down into smaller bites to become more aware. But the things that you can absolutely control are your thoughts, your words, your actions, and your emotions. Those are the things you can control. And if it's true that we've got between 12 and 60,000 thoughts going through our mind every day, we need to get a hold of those and be more mindful of what those are. Because again, a lot of times they're negative and worrisome thoughts. And what are we telling ourselves? Or are we comparing ourselves to others or deflecting and critiquing others? All of those types of things. So the things you absolutely can control are your thoughts, your words, your actions, and your emotions. In other words, your ways of being, thinking, and doing. Now,
It's
what,
kind
go
it's
ahead.
kind of like that saying instead of being oh, how does it go? Look, it just kind of lost my another thought popped in there, totally blocked what I was even going to say. But it's almost like be proactive and not reactive.
You got it. You got it. And how can we become more proactive? How can we be on the winning side, ready to make that touchdown, if you will, or whatever, make that winning shot? In my case, maybe making the winning putt for my golf team, which they will stand and tell you rarely ever happens. But either way, we all have that anxiety and that stress and fear and all of those types of things. But to break it down to understand exactly what we can control and what we cannot control, because I like to throw that in there too, because now that we know what we can control, what can we not control? And that is what someone else thinks, what they say, how they feel, or how they act, what they do. We can't control that with someone else, but we can certainly understand and know that we can control that for ourselves. And that leads us into how can we be more mindful? What is being mindful? Well, basically understanding what we can control and knowing that we have a lot of thoughts going on in our mind, but having a sense of mindfulness instead of a mind full of a lot of things just flapping around. We can take control of that and gain a greater awareness of what we're thinking, what we're saying, what we're feeling, and what we're doing. And
Kind of
by
like,
doing that, go ahead.
I was just going to say, kind of like, think before you speak.
Ooh, that's a good one because a lot of us don't. We just rattle right on out there and say things that maybe could be hurtful, and we don't think about what we're about to say. But getting more control of that mind or that mindset, and that actually helps us to be more in the present moment. We're going to talk about that in just a second, but also it helps us to regulate our emotions, understand what we're feeling. Take that moment and think about what you're going to say before you just jump in and say it, if you will. But by doing this, this helps us to become more compassionate and empathetic. It helps us to be able to think about what we want to do and to set those goals with greater awareness and appreciation, and to be more mindful of what we're doing to achieve our goals. And it also understanding the power of now, the present moment, because so oftentimes, Stacie, we worry about the past and we carry that baggage with us, all of the things that have happened, maybe the woe is me, or I used to could do this and now I can't, and and worrying about maybe even a breakup in a relationship, and we should have, could have, would have. And as you said at the beginning, if you think you can or if you think you can't, you're right on both aspects of it. But understanding the power of now, or many of us stress about what's going to happen in the future. What's going to happen tomorrow? What's going to happen next week? What's going to happen next month? And there is a lot of fear going on out there. There's a lot of potential people that are afraid of losing their job and things that are going on in the news and things like that. But if we can understand how to become more mindful of our thoughts, to get control of them, and to understand that the power of now is the most critical, important, and only power that we have is in this present moment, right now. What am I to learn from this right now? What can I do to grow through this right now? What am I thinking about this right now? What am I telling myself? What am I feeling about this right now? What am I saying and what am I doing right now? Because the power of now, the present moment, is truly the only time we ever have. And I had a friend of mine tell me one time her grandmother used to say, and I'm just going to go ahead and say it because I thought it was really apropos of the power of now. But she said my grandmother used to tell me I had one foot in the past, one foot in the future, and I was peeing all over the now because we're missing the now moment. And so, do we have that one foot in the past, one foot in the future, and we're missing what we can actually do right now and understand what we can control and what our thoughts are? So I'm going to let you kind of help me with some of this too, and let me know what you're thinking about what I'm saying, or if that's resonating with you.
Yeah, no, I was just sitting here listening, and I'm really bad at that. I will admit. I sometimes probably have both feet in the past. Especially when it comes to my daughter and having some of those fearful thoughts of things that, might be repeated. Even going back to my own childhood, right? I don't want to repeat the same mistakes that my parents made. And then now I have a daughter, I don't want to repeat them. So I do tend to kind of think back a lot. And one thing, being an actress as well, you have to, though, rely a lot on your past experiences, right, to get certain types of emotions for certain types of roles. And one thing that I discovered, and Terry, you might know this, that your brain cannot decipher if it's a past experience, if it's happening right now of what you're going through. So your brain doesn't know. So, like, I can sit here and I can think of, either something very happy that happened in the past, or even just think of an imaginary scenario and be in tears. And what I find interesting is that my brain doesn't realize, well, it's not really happening. It's just something I'm thinking of. So the thought of being able to be so present in the now and keeping your brain of what is happening now is very important.
It is. Absolutely, it is. And you're right. The brain can't tell the difference if it's something that you're daydreaming about for the future, if it's something that you're bringing up from the past, or if it's something that's going on right now. But what we can do is begin to retrain our brain, because the brain is here to help you to grow. But how are you utilizing it and using your thoughts? Are you keeping it chaotic with all those thoughts running through? And so it doesn't know if this is happening now, if it happened in the past, or it happened in the future, or if it's going to happen in the future. And that's how you even begin to manifest, to bring your future into your now and the present moment, because we all know, for anybody who is into positive awareness and thinking and all of those types of things, that if we don't act as if and believe that it's happening right now, and you do this with me a lot too, it's like it's already done. It's already done.
Yeah, that's true. I do.
Instead
I
of,
call you out on it all the time.
you do. Instead of, well, I hope, this is going to transpire, and I'm hoping and I'm wishing that this is going to happen, but bringing it into the power of now and saying, it's already done. It's done. You've got it.
Yeah,
But
I
do
have
you
to.
believe?
Yeah, that's the important part is if you believe it, which coming up in my new position, even though I'm really kind of nervous about it, I am consciously reminding myself of I'm going to be successful. I'm going to be able, I'm just keep telling myself that these are things that are going to come easy to me. I shouldn't have any fear, those types of thoughts. So it kind of calms those fears down for me a little bit, or
Yeah,
worries.
yeah. And you're not alone, and our audience isn't alone, and we want people to understand that they're not alone. So that's why we're trying to provide some of these tips and tricks to be able to help them have an ongoing way of helping them to grow through any challenges, to become more resilient, to understand the power you have in this moment, to be able to be more mindful of what you're thinking and what you're saying and how you're feeling and what you're doing, because these are all things that we can begin to do. Are we trying to multitask and take on too many things at once? I I can certainly attest that I do that on a lot of times. And you have to take a step back and say, you know what? I got to set a boundary here. I need to rest. I need to go for a walk. I need to get out in nature. I need to do some exercise. What am I taking in? What am I eating? What am I listening to? What am I watching? And give yourself a break. Sometimes, even in the words of Abraham Hicks, sometimes just take a nap. you know?
Reboot. Got to reboot.
Reboot. And how do you reboot, Stacie?
Control Alt Delete.
That's exactly right. Sometimes we just got to turn that off and stop it. And you have the power of now to make that choice to do that. I'm going
Well,
to
I think
take care of myself.
yeah, and being able to do that is also being able to realize that, and then when you move forward, right? You're moving forward with a purpose. You're moving forward with knowing steps you're going to take, I think, which is really important as well.
Absolutely. Setting those goals, being intentional about them. We talked about intention in the last show, being intentional and moving in the direction that we want to move in. And it all starts, what is it? The journey of 1,000 miles begins with one step. And it all starts with taking that step in the power you have right now in this moment, and in this moment, and in this moment. Because if we're willing to do that, that helps us to move with more purpose, with more intention. We begin to appreciate the things around us. We begin to manage our stress more effectively. And there is a lot of stress going on. I've done a lot of trainings this week about how to manage stress. But it also helps us a chance to sit back, reboot, take a few deep breaths, and regain your focus on what you're doing right now. Because the way to make changes or improvements for your future is to understand what you're thinking, what you're saying, what you're doing right now. I mentioned earlier, Stacie, that a lot of times we find ourselves comparing ourselves to others.
Mm.
We find ourselves critiquing others or criticizing others. And we all know about the water cooler effect. You know about the water cooler effect,
Yes, I do.
where we at work we meet in the break room and we're saying such things as, I can't believe that my boss wore that or said that or did that, or I can't believe one of those people down there, and we name them off, and can you believe they're getting a divorce? Or we gotta talk about somebody else, you know critiquing them, or gossiping about them. And when we do that, we deflect on everything about ourselves and our growth. I wrote in my book, and I talk this all the time. When you point the finger at someone else, talking about them, judging them, critiquing them, comparing to them, whatever the case may be, what they're doing right or what they're doing wrong, in your mind and your opinion, you have three fingers pointing back at you. So I go
You know,
back to
Terry, when you said that, that brought up a memory of mine. Of I remember we had a conversation very similar. I won't. You'll probably remember the conversation, but I remember you were kind of in a little bit of an uproar of of an issue that was going on,
who,
and
me?
yes, and I will say at that moment you were not in your best form. Let's just say you were
Oh
speaking a
man.
little unkind of what was happening. And I remember I stopped you and I said, "Hold on." I said, here you are, this wonderful person, right? And there are people, and we all do this. We all do this.
We all do it.
That there are people that we look up to that we will put up on a pedestal, and then there are people that we look down to that are like pond scum, right?
Hmm.
And if we look inward, the same whatever you call it, the same things we may put up these people up on a pedestal that they have that we admire about them. If we really look inside of us, we have those same traits, and we just have to be able to recognize them in ourselves. Just like the people we put below us that we may be like, oh my gosh, they're just pond scum. If we really acknowledge ourselves, we have those same traits. And being able to look at these traits that we put up here and the traits that are below us here, we can actually kind of even it out and go, okay, this person and this person, I'm not better than this person, and this person's not better than me, because we all have the same traits. They're just in different forms.
I love it. I love it. You nailed it. Absolutely, you did. And even though I can sit here and I can train and teach about it, we all have our moments. We do. But even when we do those types of things, and even with you, you are one of my support people. And I can say, with some of the things I've been through over the last year or so, and the frustration I've had with, some people who were supposed to be doing some work for me and did not follow through, I've got we have to let it out somewhere. And I've called and had that conversation with you, and you've jerked me back off the ledge because we all have that. And the minute you do that, I recognize exactly, exactly. And being mindful, even though sometimes we all have that tendency, and I am not immune to it. I've had to learn it. And that's something that is a practice that we all do. But there are times that we do get frustrated with someone. We get frustrated with our kids. We get frustrated with our loved ones. We get frustrated with our colleagues. We get, the people who may work for us. But being able to recognize that. And rather than going directly to them, I vent my frustrations out on someone I can trust to bring me back so that when I do have that conversation with them, I am in a much better place. So, do we have those kinds of support systems? Or, it's kind of like going on having a buddy system with exercising or with, losing weight or whatever the case may be. Do you have a buddy system? Someone who's going to be the one to snap you back into the power of now.
Right.
What do you do about this very moment?
You do need to have that support system in whatever you do, because what you don't want to do is always just have those people around that feed it. You need to
Exactly.
have that person that could knock you out of it.
Yes. And that's the water cooler effect of, everybody feeds into that gossip or that critique or whatever the case may be. And when we do that, we're deflecting upon our own worthiness and self worth. And I truly believe that you are enough. I am enough. We are worthy. We are capable. We're here to grow, to learn, to teach, and to share with one another. None of us are perfect. We're going to make mistakes. We're going to slip and tumble and fall. But are we, and do we have the resilience to bring ourselves back from that? But also, even being mindful of what it is we are thinking, what we are saying. Are we being loving and kind and empathetic? Are we moving with purpose? Are we able to appreciate the little things in life, to have gratitude for the things that we do have? Because these are all things that being mindful actually begins to promote within us. And then doing that practice of being aware of the power we have in this very moment to make significant positive changes for ourselves.
I like it. My mind's going a mile a minute, going, okay, how am I going to tomorrow? How am I going to start my day? What are the first words I'm going to say to myself? How can I make a difference in somebody else's life, even just by being a little bit more kind, right? Being kinder, because I don't know what's going on with them, and maybe they do just need a friendly hello.
Yes.
You never know.
Yes, absolutely. Being kinder to someone else and being kinder to yourself. Those thoughts that you're saying, are they worrisome and negative, or are they powerful and, positive? There's an old analogy, and I use this in a lot of my trainings, and especially when I'm talking about your mindset and what you can control and things like that. But there was an old proverb of a grandfather teaching his grandson. And he was telling his grandson, what is it? We have two wolves battling within us. And one is dark and angry and negative and criticizing and judgmental. And the other one is filled with love and light and empathy and peace and gratitude and appreciation. And the grandson asked the grandfather, he said, Grandfather, if we have these two wolves battling within us, which one wins the battle? And I've had people on, in my trainings that have no idea. They've never heard that. But the one that wins the battle is the one you choose to feed. So which wolf are you feeding? The dark, criticizing, judgmental, angry one, or the one that's more empathetic, utilizing the power of now, grateful for the things that we have, being able to reset, reboot, look inward, and be more aware of the types of thoughts we are doing. It's your choice, and it's always been your choice.
That's heavy. That is heavy. My brain's going to have to mold that over for a little bit, Terry, which makes it a perfect time before my head goes to take a let's take a quick break on that note. And when we come back, we're going to find out how we can integrate mindfulness into our daily lives. We'll be right back. Brain.
Ooh, welcome back to the I Am Power Hour, where today we're talking about the importance of the power of now, what we can do in this very now moment, and the importance of being mindful, mindful of our thoughts, our words, our actions, and our emotions. And what are we doing with those thoughts? And so this segment, we want to talk about how can we begin to integrate mindfulness into our daily lives. And one of the things we can begin to do is kind of stop and smell the roses, if you will. That's what I tell a lot of people. Take some time out outside, or time to stop and recognize what your thoughts are. What am I thinking at this moment? Are they worrisome and negative thoughts? Which one of those wolves am I feeding? Or am I thinking more positive, grateful thoughts? Something that's going to allow me to de-stress for the moment, because this can help you even with your stress management. We can maybe take some time to get up away from the technology and the computer and stretch or go for a walk. And even the things you're taking in. What are you watching? What are you listening to? And also, what are you eating? Mindful eating. Being mindful about what you're taking into your mind with, are they worrisome, news-based, negative, fear-based types of things that get you worked up in your mind and your body? Or are you watching things that are positive, that are good for you, that are funny, humorous, listening to music that maybe uplifts you, or any of those types of things? These are things we're taking into our mind, but also, even with our eating, are we being mindful about our eating and what we're eating and taking the time to enjoy that? Stacie, I've been out with you quite a few times, and we've been out to dinner and things like that, and I noticed that you always turn your phone off. You eliminate all distractions. And when you're there, and I know you do this even with your daughter, because there's been times I've attempted to call you and you will get in touch with me later and say, I was at dinner with my daughter.
Mm-hmm.
And so you turn off all distractions. So you want to elaborate a little bit on that?
Yeah, no, I do. I think it's important that every now and then you got to disconnect, you got to unplug, and being able to do that, especially with my daughter when or friends, like going out to dinner, I think it's really important so you can focus on them and be mindful of them and what's going on with them. Because I've noticed over the years, you can go to a restaurant, you can sit down, and I've seen families. I've seen people out on dates. I've watched, co-workers. I mean, just you can just tell. And every single person, they're not interacting with one another. They're all on their phone.
They
And
are.
ha ha ha, and they may laugh and they might show the video to whatever, but then they're right back there.
I
They're
know.
not
And
interacting anymore. And I feel so bad for kids who's doing that and their parents are doing the same thing. And I'm not a big fan of it. If you do it and what you do, okay, fine. But I am not a fan of it. And I've taught my daughter not to do it. You put your phone down, you put it away. We're going to talk. I barely see my daughter, she's in college. So when I get her, I want to make sure that I absorb as much of her as I can because one day she won't be there and I need to make sure I take it all in now. So yeah, I think it's important to do that.
And that's mindfulness, being mindful of who you're with and in that present moment. You're soaking in that present moment. And it's funny that you brought up about going out to dinner and looking around because I do a lot of parenting trainings. And of course, I've got my Bridging the Gap training out there, which is a course for parents. But even in those trainings that I do for parents, I always ask the question, have you ever been out to dinner with your family and noticed other people sitting at other tables? What are they doing? And a lot of people will respond, they're looking at, their phones. You've got a table of four people potentially sitting across from each other at a table. And no one is talking to one another.
That's right. They're not. Nobody's paying attention. It seems like nobody cares. They just want to stay in their own little bubble and they don't want to, they're so connected to the phone that they
Yeah.
don't feel like they need to connect to anybody else. And it makes me so angry and sad all at the same time.
Yeah. And this goes on all the time. So are we mindful about what we're eating and taking the time to enjoy it with our family, our friends, our loved ones, whoever you may be out to eat with, or even if you're at home, do you turn off those distractions, the TV, putting the phones aside? If nothing else, get a basket and everybody puts their phone in the basket while we sit down to eat. But even being mindful in your eating and your foods, paying attention to the colors of the foods, the senses, the smells, the taste, and enjoying it rather than just shoving it in your mouth and going about your way, but being mindful of taking that time to enjoy, being grateful for the food that you have. If you spent time actually preparing it, then spend time actually enjoying it and
That's a
even
good
teaching
point.
your family that.
Yeah, that's a good point, Terry, because I think a lot in our day and age right now, we're in such a rush, right? I mean,
Yeah,
you got to have your breakfast because you're late for school, you're late for work, then you got
yeah,
to have a quick lunch because you got to get to that meeting, and then you get home and you have to have dinner real quick because the kids got to get off to their, exercises or ball games or whatever it is, and
yeah.
and I've noticed that being able to slow down, like you were just saying, and being mindful of what you're eating, what you're tasting, it also comes to fact of how your body feels too,
Yes,
right? A lot of times when we're not being mindful of what we're eating, we tend to overeat because
yes,
we're eating too much and we're not giving our body enough time to register, hey, you don't need to eat anymore. So being more mindful of that and slowing down, I mean, it's done wonders for me,
yes.
100%.
And it has with me as well. But just, if nothing else, fully appreciate chewing your food and the bites and the taste and the color and the senses and the smells, or even set your fork down in between bites, having a conversation with someone that you're there with rather than looking over here on your phone or looking over at the TV or any of those types of things, but turning off the distractions and bringing an actual family dinner time. And I know, I get it. We have lots of things to do, and this may not be a daily thing, but we can make it a weekly or two or three times a week thing to where we actually sit down and we spend time and we have conversation. We find out how the day went for, our family members, our kids, for us, for our partner, whatever the case may be. But just taking that time to actually communicate, turn off the distractions, and enjoy the meal that we are having and that we prepared. And that's about being mindful.
I like
So,
that.
so some of these things that we're talking about are things that we can incorporate with ease if we're just even mindful of doing it. I know you like to camp, and another way to incorporate mindfulness is getting out in nature, even if you're not a camper or whatever the case may be, but going for a walk in nature. The flowers are going to start blooming in the trees, and just taking in the sights and the senses and the smells and the sounds of the birds. But tell me about your camping experiences and what that does for you.
Oh my goodness. Well, Terry, you've been camping with me. And I'm pretty hardcore camper. I mean, even though I've now upgraded over the years, I mean, I used to tent camp pretty darn hard, and I have now since upgraded from tent camping to a pop-up to now a full-blown trailer because I'm a little bit too old now to tent camp and sleep on the floor. But besides that, I love kind of like going out to dinner, right? I love going out to nature, putting the phone away, disconnecting, being with my dogs, just being with nature, taking in, the fresh air, the smells. When I am waking up, I can hear the boats revving their engines, getting ready to go fishing, which floods back so many childhood memories of camping with my family and just relishing in the feelings and the good feelings, the happy feelings that it gives me. That it just, I mean, if you don't camp, at least go for a walk. I highly recommend it. And just put the phone away and just look around, right? See the little squirrelies running by and those types of things. And you can make it fun, even if you have kids, right? Make it a scavenger hunt. Hey, who can find me a leaf? Who can find me a squirrel? Who can, go find me a stick? Whatever it is. It's just, it's great. I love it. I love doing that, doing
And
stuff like
just
that.
taking in those deep breaths, feeling the breeze, feeling the sun. This is all about colors and textures and slowing yourself down to, as I say, stop and smell the roses from time to time. And that's
Grounding.
about being mindful, because we have gotten in this day and age such a rush. Everything is in a hurry. Everything has to be done now. But the bottom line is we need to take now to reset ourselves, to refocus ourselves. And it doesn't take long. This is not something, I mean, this is something you can do even at your computer during the day. It's just taking a few minutes to take even some deep breaths to relax yourself. And I was thinking today, maybe we could do a little breathing exercise for our audience. What do you think?
Yeah, I'm in. Okay, let's go.
Oh, right. Well, it's kind of quick and easy, but what I like to do is, because we have all those thoughts racing in our minds, is to count. Because if it's true that you can only think one thought at a time, then I'm going to have you counting in your mind, or at least listening to me count. And then when you do this on your own, you will count. Now, that's going to stop all these other rapid fire thoughts. So you're going to push them out here for the moment. And don't worry, I'm sure you're going to let them come back. But in the meantime, we want to make sure our feet are flat on the floor, because crossing your legs or your arms actually blocks the flow of energy. So we want to reset ourselves and do that. Maybe if you're sitting at your computer and you have been, or you're feeling a little tight, gently roll your shoulders back a couple times, maybe drop your head and kind of move it from side to side to stretch your neck, because I know when I get stressed, my shoulders tense up. And that leads to headaches and backaches and shoulder aches and all of that. But when that happens and you're tensed up, you can't breathe, which actually blocks your cells from running through your veins and arteries and the flow of oxygen to your lungs and your brain. So we just want to make sure that we kind of roll the shoulders and make sure that both feet are flat on the ground. And then we're going to take a deep breath and feel our body inflate with through our nose to the count of 4. We're going to hold that for the count of 2. And here's another thing you can control, and that is your breath, and slowly exhaling out to the count of 6. So we're going to do that a couple of times just to kind of give our audience an idea of how we do this. And I want you to sit in that for a moment in between. And you're going to notice when I do the exhale that I'm going to slow down that counting because I want you to be more intentional about controlling the exhale out and feeling your body deflate and relax. So, we ready? Let's
Yeah,
give
let's
this a
go. Let's
whirl.
go.
Okay, we're going to inhale to the count of 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold 2. 1, 2. Exhale out your mouth. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Sit there a moment. And we're going to do it again. Deep inhale. 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold 2. 1, 2. Slow exhale. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
Just kidding.
And I recommend that you do this at least 3 times. But how long did that take out of the moment of your day? And if you need to do it 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 times in a row, this will help to relax you. Did you feel any different doing it those 2 times?
I did. Yeah, it totally relaxed me. I feel good, refreshed, ready to go at it.
Exactly. So it's another way to hit that control alt delete and just be mindful of your breathing. And that's something that we can do at any given moment of the day. Just kind of get your shoulders back so you're opening up your chest to take those big, deep breaths. And that puts you back into the present moment. And that's exactly where you go when you're doing that. You're in the present moment. You're out of the past, you're out of the future, you're in the present moment now. And so that is another trick that you can do. So we've got taking a walk in nature, the mindful eating, putting away the distractions, and even being able to take time to maybe journal your thoughts and what you're feeling. Stacie, I know you do a lot of that, don't you?
I do. I don't do it every night, which I need to be better at it. I do journal. I keep a gratitude journal, and I know that's something that we're going to talk about in some later episodes. But I do write stuff down every day that um, what I'm grateful for and what went well during the day,
Yes.
which really helps to capture more of those little things that you may not really think of that was, big and great, but it's something that, I'm grateful for the little wins and it helps me to recognize them.
Yes, and we all need to take that time to be present and be grateful for those little wins,
Mm-hmm.
or even the huge wins. And so all of this are things that we can begin to do and incorporate in our life. Nobody even has to necessarily know. These are all things that we can begin to do for ourselves. And don't forget, I'm a big advocate that small changes can create large impacts. But what are you drinking and taking in throughout your day? Are they sugary, caffeinated drinks, or are you willing to maybe change one of those out for some water? Even making that small transitional change because water is going to hydrate your cells and your body and to help you feel better rather than sugar and caffeine, which is going to actually shrivel you up and cause you to be even more tense. It's not going to help you, but water can help you to hydrate, to open up, and to help your cells flow. And that helps to increase the oxygen too. So even being mindful about what you're taking in your body, what you're listening to, how you're breathing, also taking the time to journal or take a walk or get out in nature or exercise and get that heart rate up. Get that breath going. And again, get outside and go for a walk. Go for a bike ride with the kids. Go for walks in nature. There are all kinds of things that we can do, and even to help create and help our family to be healthier and more mindful as well. So, Stacie, I'm going to let you help me to wrap some of this up, and we will call it a day. I think we've done a great job on being more mindful today, but you have anything else you'd like to add?
Yeah, no, we touched on a lot of stuff today that I think we're going to be able to carry on with us. Everything from mindful, being mindful, and the the power of now, and the importance of being where you're at right now, and being able to pay attention of that moment, because it's so important. That is why it is called a present, right? It's a gift every single second. It's a true gift. And then being even able to integrate mindfulness into our daily lives, and those steps that we can take so easily, just those small little tweaks that we can incorporate from, when you're at work and you need to take a break, go for a walk outside, drink some water, do a couple of breathing exercises. It just really kind of can take that stress away that you may be experiencing during the day, which I think is really important. So I'm very much excited about ep- this episode that we just did, Terry, because I think it's so wonderful, and so many good tidbits and golden nuggets that we can take with us into, the coming week.
Yes, absolutely. And like I said, I know there's a lot going on out there. There's a lot of fear and things like that. But if some of this can just help someone to, slow down and take better care of themselves, because if you don't take care of yourself, then you surely cannot help and take care of others. So we want to be more mindful of what we're thinking. What are we saying to ourselves? How are we speaking to ourselves? Are we speaking to ourselves with, I can't, I'm not able, I'm not good enough, I'm not smart enough? Or are we changing those thoughts to more powerful thoughts of, I can, I am, and I will? I am grateful. I am abundant. I am capable. I am worthy. I am enough. There's such a difference in being able to say that to yourself, even out loud. And whether you believe it at first or not, keep empowering yourself for that, because we always have the opportunity to LNT, learn new things. And this journey that we're on is all about growth and awareness and becoming our best selves. So, Stacie, next show, do we know what that's going to be about?
Well, this past week, Terry, you taught me a new word, and I think it is something that we should talk about next week. And it's called doom scrolling.
Gosh. Doom scrolling. And
That's
what do you
right.
think that might be? And I guess we will have that conversation in the next show about what exactly is doom scrolling. And
Yeah,
think about it, you could probably figure it out, but we're going to dive a little deeper into it.
definitely. And if you'd like to contact us, share us your story, want to know something that maybe you want us to talk about, you can always email us at the I am power hour at gmail.com. Would love to hear from you.
Yes, we would. And share with a friend. Tell a friend about our show at the I Am Power Hour, or feel free to write in and let us know at the I Am Power Hour at gmail.com, because we definitely want to hear from you. Your thoughts, your feedback, your stories, or any topics that you want us to work on and look toward. But I want to thank you, Stacie, for being my number one co-host. I love having you here with me, and I am just so grateful that we're able to bring this out and hopefully help a lot of people around the world.
Thank you, Terry. I appreciate it. And as always, I'm so grateful for being here with you. I'm so grateful for being part of this show and being able to connect with our audience. And I just can't wait to see what happens next week.
As we doom scroll.
That's right.
Well, Stacie, I guess that's a wrap for the episode of the I Am Power Hour today, where we have spoke on mindfulness and the power of now.
We hope you're walking away with some inspiration and maybe even a new perspective.
And don't forget, we definitely want to hear from you, and feel free to write us at the I Am Power Hour Gmail at gmail.com. And so until next time, keep shining, stay curious, and as always,
Own your power.
own your power. Winning at life. Own your power. See you next time.
Bye.
It's the I Am Power Hour with Terry J. Walker and Stacie Staten. If you'd like to contact us, you can reach us at the I Am Power Hour at gmail.com. Thank you for watching.